Welcome to week 3 of hashtag The Struggle is Real, following Jesus in a selfie-centered world. If you haven't been with us, what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is problems that have been made bigger by the rise of the social media revolution that's taken place all around us. Again, I just want to say I don't think these are problems that have been created necessarily by this, but they are human problems that have been made bigger by the rise of the social media revolution. Last week, if you were with us or you had a chance to watch it online, Jason brought up the point that the word in our title, selfie, is a word that didn't even exist a number of years ago. And I was wondering how many of you actually know how long it's been around. So just for fun, to kick us off, why don't you turn to the person nearby you and tell them how long, what year do you think the word selfie began to be used in the English language? Well, the answer is 2002. The Oxford Dictionary, which now contains the word selfie, says that in 2002, a 21-year-old Australian student posted a picture to his friends saying that he had gotten drunk, that he had fallen, and he'd busted his lip, and he posted to them a picture of his busted lip. So selfies had a glorious beginning. But the selfie revolution we're talking about, it really isn't just about you post pictures of yourself. What's really made it more popular is the fact that we now have social media in the last decade that almost everybody's involved in, where you can post numerous photos of yourself. And I think what's made it even bigger is the fact that almost all of us now carry around in our pockets really powerful cameras that really we have the ability to easily point at ourselves and take pictures. And we can take those pictures and we can do a lot with them. One of the things that people my age and older and younger know is that it hasn't been that long ago that to take pictures you had to carry around a pretty massive camera. And if you wanted to take really good pictures, you had to take a more expensive, bigger camera. And you would take pictures of things, and you didn't even know what the pictures for sure looked like until you got them developed. And development, would, if you weren't a professional, generally involved taking them somewhere and leaving them for at the minimum a few hours, or you wait for weeks. And then when they would come back mailed to your home in a few weeks, these actual photos you'd have in your hand, you'd scroll through them and you'd go, some of these are just horrible. And there'd be people in them with red eye, and you just assumed, I guess those people actually have red eyes because there's nothing I can do about that. But that's not the case anymore. Now in my pocket, I carry a phone, and I can point it at myself, or I can point it at other people, and I can take photos, and if they don't look exactly the way I want them to look, I can just go and take it again, and I can see immediately what it looks like. And on my phone, I can edit it, I can touch things up, I can take out red eye, I can put a filter on it, I can make me look the best me I want to, and then I post it. And when I post it, I don't say, hey, this is not me, this is just the me I want you to see. We just posted it as being me. And what that's led to, this idea that I'm just posting or I'm putting out for everybody the me I want to see, again, I don't think that happened just because we have cameras that are easy for us to see and we can post things easily. But what's happened is that ability to touch things up and to post things in a way that you don't really know for sure whether it's what's going on or not, it's led to what almost everybody in our culture sees is a rise in inauthenticity in our world, that we struggle with being authentic, and we struggle with living lives of honorable, deep character. Now, you know what those things are. Authenticity and character are the things that I want to see in everybody I do business with, everybody I work with, everybody I date, everybody I'm married to, everybody in my family. I want them to have honorable character, live authentically. But they're not things that I don't necessarily want to pay the price to do for myself. Honorable character is the thing that it bothers me so much when I see any lack of it in anybody I love or anybody who leads me or anybody who's in charge over me. It bothers me when they don't live with honorable character. But if I'm honest, your lack of character bothers me a whole lot more than my lack of character. And the interesting thing to me is that when you begin to study on this thing of how deep inauthenticity is in our culture these days and the lack of real honorable character in our culture, how it is, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of debate that that's the truth. Everybody seems to see that that's what's going on in our society, that we're We're fairly shallow, and we don't live with a lot of honorable character. And everybody wants it. Everybody wants us to be a culture where there would be a rise again of honorable character, and we live with deep ethics and authenticity. Everybody sees it a problem. Everybody wants it to take place. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. Everybody believes this is something that happens. And everybody seems to think that what's happened is somewhere over the last several decades, we made a decision, whether it was consciously or not, and we began to prioritize fulfillment and achievement over living lives of deep, authentic, honorable character. And you hear people talk about it all around you. In an election year like now, you hear people talking about it. I wish we just had candidates that had good character. And people even, you hear their choices and they make, and they go, well, he's not the most honorable person, and she didn't do the right thing, this isn't all the best, and everything's not the best. But at least they've achieved something with their life. At least something's been accomplished by them. They're not very honorable, but at least something's been accomplished. And we look back and we point at our leaders and we blame them for what's going on, but let's be clear, it didn't start up there and filter down to us. It started in our homes. It starts with parents. I mean, all parents, we all want to have children that have honorable character, who live authentically from a core of authentic, honorable character, but we also want them to achieve things and be fulfilled in life. And when it comes down to it, in our daily lives, where other people can see, we know that they can't really see what's at the core of the core, but what they can see is whether they achieve or whether they're really fulfilled. And so what's happened over time is, since we've honored what people can see and we honor that they're fulfilled, is what's happened over time is right. We have a whole new ethic. Right has become defined as whatever makes me feel fulfilled. Right is whatever makes me feel right, okay right now. And wrong's whatever makes me feel bad in the moment. Right is whatever moves me toward the goal that I want to accomplish. And wrong's whatever keeps me from it. I mean, that's what's taken place. And so, in normal kind of life, a college student goes off to college, and you know the goal of college. The goal of college is to make the grades, to get the degree, so you can get the job, so you can make the money, so you can buy the things, and you can achieve the things, and you can be fulfilled in your life, because fulfillment's through achievement and purchasing and having all that you want. So if that's the goal, and it comes down to a point where you can't necessarily make the grade to get the sheet of paper, but you can cheat your way to get the grade, and you cheat your way to the grade, and you say to somebody around you, well, they say, hey, you made the grade, and you go, yeah, I cheated. Nobody goes, whoa, what? You cheated? What your friends say is, hey, can you get me a copy of that test? What was on the test? Can you help me out and figure out how to do that? Because in our culture, I mean, that's why you see some of the stuff that goes on in high places, and you see something in corporate world, and you say, how do people do that and sleep at night? Well, probably not sleeping too well when they got caught, but the truth is, the whole time it was going on, they were sleeping fine because everybody around them honored. They achieved things, they were pushing the ball forward, everything was going great. It's because that's what our culture honors. Not people of deep, honorable character. And when fulfillment takes precedent over character, then a whole new ethic gets written in a culture. In other words, when there comes a choice between, I can either be temporarily happy and temporarily gratified, and I can find pleasure in being what I want in this moment. When I come to a crossroads where I can either move toward the kind of thing that will make me feel great about myself and achieve some goal down the road, or I can sacrifice because what I'd have to do to be fulfilled in the moment wouldn't necessarily be right. In our world, fulfillment gets honored over character. And what happens is a new cultural morality takes over, a morality that says it's what fulfills you, even if your fulfillment is only temporary. If you're fulfilled in the minute, then that's moral. And whatever doesn't fulfill you, that's immoral. Whatever makes you feel right in the moment, that's good. Whatever doesn't make you feel right, that's wrong. Anything that stands in the way of your pleasure is wrong. Anything that keeps you from achieving your goal cannot possibly be right. When achievement and fulfillment take backseat to character, when they push character to the backseat, then the ethics change and morality changes and everything changes in a culture. And again, let's just be clear. I am not talking about something bad and ugly that's taking place outside of the room where you're currently sitting. I'm talking about the bad and ugly that's taking place in us, in those of us that are joining in right now. And here's where the problem really comes in. See, in a family or society or a group where achievement and fulfillment has precedent over authentic, honorable character, then always, 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 the price gets paid in that culture in relationships. When there's no authentic, honorable character, when authenticity and character have gone away, the price always gets paid relationally. Authenticity and character are to relationships what oil is to the engine of a car. Now, I've just thrown in an analogy that a lot of you don't get because you don't know how an engine of a car runs, but you know how a car works. So, for instance, most of you know that if you drive a car without gas, what happens when you run a car out of gas? Well, it stops running. At the moment the gas tank is empty or the fuel tank is empty, that engine stops running. What happens when you run a car, an engine, without oil? Well, you might be surprised. You can run that engine without oil for a while. It will actually run for a while. But when it stops, it's not like stopping an engine that ran out of fuel. You can put fuel in an engine that ran out of fuel and you can make it start again. When you run an engine that you've run without oil and it stops because it didn't have oil in it, it has stopped for good. And it'll have to be totally rebuilt. And the reason for that is in your engine, if you were to take it apart when it's brand new, you'll find parts that were perfectly made for each other. I mean, they were perfectly made to fit together. They were made for each other, to be with each other. But a part of being with each other is that they were made to move against each other, to rub against each other, to be in relationship with each other. But they move so closely with each other that there's friction. And oil is what keeps the friction from destroying these moving parts that were made for each other. Without the oil, eventually the friction builds up heat, and the parts that were made for each other, they eventually destroy each other. That's what happens. Authenticity and deep, honorable character, it's the oil of all relationships everywhere. I mean, they're what allow men and women to be together, to move together, who are designed for each other, to be with each other, perfectly suited for each other, and to last with each other for a lifetime. You extract the oil of authentic, honorable character from any relationship, and what will happen is the relationship will run on for a while, but you extract the honorable character from that relationship, and eventually, without honorable character, there will be a breakdown. Now, let's be clear. Every relationship, good or bad, all have friction, even ones that are made for each other. But honorable character is the oil that keeps the friction from building up, that even if the relationship stops, if the gas tank runs out, you can refill it. But run a relationship without authentic, honorable character for any length of time, when that relationship stops, it stops. That's why, and this is a point where I don't even have to tell stories. I just give you a few seconds and you can think of your own story. I mean, this is many of your stories. Even if it's not your story, it was your parents' story. You were 12 and your parents split up and you didn't know it at the time, but you learned out later. Somebody wasn't living at that point with very honorable character. And the relationship stopped. And some of you repeated that behavior, or you started that behavior. See, People are made for each other. It's why you've seen this happen, where you see people that everybody looks at them and go, man, they were made for each other. Whether it's in a business and they're perfectly compatible with each other, you watch these people who are made for each other, and they start out with each other, and then 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 years down the road, and eventually all stops, and people who were made for each other and committed to each other and were happy with each other, they now hate each other more than they hate anybody on the planet. Because when you extract honorable, deep, authentic character from any relationship, two people made for each other, they'll destroy each other. And all of us joining in, not somebody out there, all of us joining in are both victims and we are participants in this problem. And that's why in our self-centered world, this selfie-centered world that we live in, where we glory in accomplishments and when we raise achievements to the top, and when we talk about fulfillment being the most important things, we struggle. I mean, everybody sees it. We struggle to maintain deep, meaningful relationships. We're temporarily fulfilled. They run for a while, but over time, nothing holds together relationally. Now, into this mess, our God says, I have a solution. It is that you need to raise back to the top. You need to raise your eyes, people who follow me. You need to raise the bar again of authentic, honorable character. We have to decide that being men and women, that we are raised men and women who will live with deep, authentic, honorable character. And of course you'll achieve some things, and of course you'll be fulfilled in some ways. But those things won't come first. Living with authentic, honorable character will be the priority. Now, let me just give you a definition of character, because I want to make sure we're all on the same page. And I could fill the screen for a long time with definitions of characters, words about character, but I want to define authentic, godly character that should describe followers of Jesus Christ. Here it is. It's the will to do what is right as God defines what's right. So the will to do what's right as God defines what's right, no matter the cost. Living with authentic, honorable character in a selfie-centered world is the will to do what's right. Not as I see what's right, not as fulfillment tells me what's right, not as achievement tells me what's right. It's the will to do what's right as God defines what's right. No matter what it may personally cost me. Now, if you're a person that's with us today and you're not really sure how you think about this God thing, and you've been told your whole life that, hey, there really is no absolute truth, except, of course, the truth that there's no absolute truth. Absolutely, there's no absolute truth, which, of course, absolutely contradicts itself. If that's where you are, that this idea of a God that somewhere stands outside of you and he's a standard for something, a right or wrong, and you didn't get to decide on it, and you didn't get to say whether the culture that he set it into fits your culture, and you're not a part of all of that being true or not, and you're not even sure that anybody should live that way, here's what I know for sure. When you meet somebody that authentically lives this way, that they have the will to do what's right as God describes what's right, and complete part of it, not a part of it, all of it, that they have the will to do what's right as God describes what's right, and you find somebody that lives this way, that they'll do it no matter the cost, here's what I know. You like being in relationship with them, and here's why. Because they are absolutely predictable. Because they're going to do what's right no matter what. They're going to do the right thing no matter what it personally costs them. When you meet somebody, see a man or woman who's decided, I'm going to live with this kind of character, I'm going to live authentically with honorable character, is simply committed to, I'm going to do what's right simply because it's right, not because I get anything. And this is a really different concept in our world, in our society, and I couldn't even think of even a way to compare it to anything else in our world. In other words, a person living with authentic character is committed to doing what's right, not because I can get anything out of it, but because it's just the right thing to do. I mean, You've had conversations with people, and I have too, where they'll say to you, hey, I know it's okay, I know it's the right thing to do, but what will it accomplish if I do it? See, that's honoring achievement. I know it's the right thing to do, but it won't accomplish anything, so I'm not going to do it. You've had conversations where people go, okay, it may be right, but it doesn't make me feel right. That's honoring fulfillment. It makes me feel a certain way. When we honor achievement and fulfillment, see, a person with deep, authentic character is a person that says, I'm going to do what's right, not because I get anything from it. I may not be fulfilled. I may not accomplish what I thought I ought to accomplish. I'm doing what's right because it's right. See, there are two guys, and they have an opportunity to have an affair, and person A decides, hey, I'm not going to have the affair because, hey, it would ruin my family and destroy my kids and hurt my wife, and I love her, and I might get caught, and I'm not going to have the affair and take the chance that I destroy all that I love. And we look at that and go, hey, it was a good call. But a person with real authentic character says, hey, I'm not having the affair, not because I might get caught and it might destroy these people. I'm not having the affair because I said I wouldn't. I promised I would be true, and it would be wrong. I'm going to be faithful because it's the right thing to do, and I'm doing it because it's right. That's the essence of authentic character. And there's where God would want to see us go. Now here's what I know. All of us hope our kids turn out like that. I mean, don't you hope that you raise kids that they'll do the right thing because it's right, and they're not going to do wrong because they're afraid you're going to catch them? They'll do the right thing in those moments when they know they could get away with it. They do right because it's right. I know you want them to marry somebody like that. I know you hope they get a job like that. Don't you wish your husband was like that? Don't you wish your wife was like that? Don't you wish your boss was like that? Don't you wish we had leaders in our country who would do the right thing because it's right, not because it would accomplish something? See, we all want that. We all want to see it in other people. I mean, I want to be in relationship. I want to live in a culture like that. I'm just not sure I want to sign up to do it myself. So I want to look at you with you at some scripture today from the older part of the Bible. I just want to show you what our God has to say about this and how he honors this. I want us to look at a part of the Bible. It's called wisdom literature. In the older part of the Bible, it's the book of Proverbs. And in this book, I want you to see in these verses how God feels about this whole deal. And what I want you to see is, I want you to imagine how highly, I want you to see how our God values authentic, honorable character. And the reason he prizes it so much is because it reflects his nature. You and I were made in the image of God, and when we live with this honorable character, that we do what's right because it's the right thing to do, God honors that. Here's what it says in Proverbs 11, verse 1. The Lord abhors dishonest scales. Now, that word there, abhors, just means, it's not just he dislikes it, it's more like a gut-wrenching hatred of something. He hates dishonest scales. Now, I'll tell you, as a guy that you can look at and say, I bet that guy's been on a diet or two in his life. As a guy who has spent some time on diets, I sort of like dishonest scales. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you step on a scale and it weighs you less than you know you weigh. How's that feel? I tell you how it feels for me. I'm like, hey, Becky, I want to buy these. See, most of us like dishonesty if it benefits us. I don't want you to be dishonest with me, but I'm okay with dishonesty if I get some benefit out of it on the other side. But here's what God says. See, in the days that this is written, these scales things, that's the way they did business. And there'd be this balance scale, and there'd be rocks on one side that they all supposedly knew what they weighed, and then you'd have to put gold or silver or some other commodity on the other side. It's the way they paid for things. It's the way they did exchanges. And God's saying, I hate merchants who figured out ways to have rocks that look like they weigh a certain amount, but they weigh a little bit more, so that people have to give them a little bit more in exchange. God said, I hate that. I hate when you can make it look like everything's okay, but it's not okay. And you know it's not okay. But look at the flip side. But accurate weights are his delight. You know what that means? What happens when you see somebody that you'd say you delight in? Do you have people like that? My family is like that for me. When my granddaughters particularly are like that for me now, where I haven't seen them and I'll see them and something happens in me. I just delight in. My face changes. The feeling inside of me. I delight to be with Evie and Julie. It's a delight for me. And when I have an opportunity to show people pictures or I introduce them, a different kind of feel comes over that. I don't know if you've ever been on the other side of that, where somebody just delights in you, where they delight in you. And you can see when you walk into a room, they sort of light up. The Bible says people who live with authentic character, not dishonest scales, but honest scales, God delights in people like that. And he lights up. And see, some of you walk around and you think God's mad at you. God's not mad at you. And now you come to learn that Jesus died for you and he gave his life for you, but you sort of think of it as Jesus died for the whole world, and he sort of made this deal that anybody accepts it gets lumped in, and he don't really like me, but he had to take me because that was the deal. Living lives of authentic character, God delights in you. He lights up about you. The Bible says when we come men and women with this kind of character, as a part of that, you become an honest man or woman. It changes you, but God delights in you. Not only does light in your honesty, but it also goes on to say he blesses humility. The next verse, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. There's always a price to be paid for pride. We're making people think things, and we think better about ourselves. And this is me, I want you to see. But he adds, when you're humble, God gives you wisdom. With humility comes wisdom. God rewards the character of humility. Now, let me tell you what I know about you. You want to be wise. You want to be a wise parent. You don't want to be a foolish parent. You don't want to look back at your parenting and realize I was a fool. You want to be a wise husband, a wise wife. You want to be a wise employee, a wise employer. You want to make the best decisions you can make. You want to be wise in that. God says, I honor the character of humility. People are wise. I grow them in wisdom. He goes on to say, he gives a third one. He delights in honesty. He blesses humility. And look at this. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful, they're destroyed by their duplicity. The integrity of the upright guides them. You know the most asked question that all pastors get asked? You take out all the personal details, it comes down to this. How do I know what God's will is? How do I know if I should go to that college? How do I know whether I should go in the army? How do I know whether I should marry her? How do I know if I should be with him? How do I know if I should move there? How do I know? How do I know what God's will is for me? And we've made this thing so complicated that we think it comes down to, I sit and I get quiet and I pray and I study and I think and I think and I think, and then I hear something from God and then I go, oh, that must not be right. And the reason we think it's often not right is because it's not at all what I want to do. And so I pray and I think more, waiting for some kind of feeling or move from God that'll guide me, and that'll be God's will. You know what this verse is saying? God says, let me just make it easy for you. You focus on becoming a man or a woman of deep, authentic, honorable, godly character. You make the focus of your life developing character in your life, where you have the will to do what's right no matter what. You focus on that. In the end, what will happen is then your integrity that you've developed, it will guide you. Let me tell you what I've noticed over years of doing this. Men and women of integrity, men and women of deep, honorable, godly character who do what's right, the will to do what's right no matter what, they make great decisions. They are great decision makers. That's because 9 out of 10 times, the next decision that needs to be made is just the next right thing to do. It's just the next right thing. I mean, it's most of life right there. It's just doing the next right thing. Not the right thing is defined by, it makes me feel good, it moves me towards some goal. It's just the next right thing as God defines what's right. And then the details, when you make your life about just doing the next thing that's right as God defines what's right, the details about what your life looks like, men and women of integrity, the details just tend to work themselves out. God says, I want more than anything else for you to make good decisions, because your whole life is made up of good decisions and the relationships you build. But you can't make good decisions in a vacuum about the rest of your life. If you will work with me on developing deep, authentic, godly character, the will to do what's right as I define what's right, no matter what it costs you, the decisions you worry so much about, they'll take care of themselves. You know who have the hardest time making good decisions? It's people who spend their lives running from standards that God set and running towards some goal that they've set or some fulfillment that they want, or running after some personal kind of thing that people will go there and they're running after this person like it and running after this, and they run themselves ragged while all the time God has a standard over here. They run and they run and they run, and their life continually falls apart, and they don't have the fulfillment they want, and they don't make the decisions they want. And if you're there, and I've described you, I'm not being critical. Hey, a number of years ago, I was right there with you. I was right where you are. But when you've lived enough and made enough bad decisions for so long, you finally come to say, I've got a major decision to make, and I need to know what God wants me to do. And now you want to know what God, you've not developed the character that you need. It's not punished from God that you can't get word from God. It's just a consequence of a life lived pursuing things other than the will to do what's right as God defines. Not your fulfillment, not your friends, not society, not culture. It's a life lived apart from pursuing godly character. You got a lot of achievement, you got a lot of people that like you, a lot of likes on your Facebook page. But your life, you can't get the decisions right. And your Heavenly Father says, I don't want you to live that way. He says, I made you to delight in you. I want to delight in you. I want you to be one of those people that when I think about you, I light up. I want your character to be such that all you need is to follow the integrity that you and I built deep into your life, and the details of your life will take place. But if that's going to happen, some changes are going to have to be made. You have to come to a place where you say, God, I want to do what's right, even if it means it doesn't feel right. God, I want to do what's right even if she leaves. Or, God, I want to do what's right even if it means I have to stay. God, I want to do what's right even if everybody I know says it's wrong and they laugh at me and they don't like me. I want to do what's right as you defined what's right, no matter what. I just want to be a person of authentic, honorable character as you define that, regardless of the cost for me. So let me talk to you about next steps for a minute. You know, every week we ask you to take one of these cards and fill it out. And let me just ask you, are you at the place where you want that in your life, where you want to live that kind of life of honorable character? Where you say, I've messed up and I keep making bad decisions and I paid enough price relationally that I want to be a person of character? Are you there? Well, I have some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is it's possible. Our Father is all about building that into people. The bad news is I don't have a prayer for you to pray that's going to fix it in the next 10 seconds. The good news is, no matter how much you've messed up, no matter how many things you've torn up, regardless of how little you know about God or how far away you've gone, your Heavenly Father is waiting for you and longs to help you build a life of honorable character. And it can start today. If you're newer here, it may just be by you deciding, hey, I'm going to keep coming to figure this out. Or maybe you've been here for long enough that on the right side of the back of that connection card, there's a box that says, I want to make Jesus leader of my life and be baptized. Those are the first steps of making the right decision no matter what. This is not a box you check if you've already made Jesus and you're just reconfirming it and you want to say, I always make Jesus. You probably don't always make Jesus Lord of your life. This is a box that says, I'm making Jesus leader of my life today. And I want to know about being baptized. Some of you, that's what you need to do. That's the first step for you. For others of you, you don't know enough. You just need to come back. Maybe you need to take the step of saying, hey, I'll begin to live authentically and step out of just a selfie-centered, kind of world of social media, and I'll get in a group. We have groups just for this series that are talking about this. You have 3 more weeks to be in one of those. You could be a part of one of those. You could check that box. I hope everybody will consider praying the prayer that's written on that card. In fact, I'm just going to put it on the screen. I want to challenge you to begin to pray the character prayer. The prayer that says, Lord, give me the wisdom to know what's right and the will to do what's right, no matter what. In fact, will you pray that out loud with me right now? Lord, give me the wisdom to know what's right and the courage to do what is right, no matter what. Our Father will answer that prayer if you'll pray it. The wisdom to know what's right and the courage to do what's right, no matter what. Let me pray for you. God, I pray for every person here now that's making that decision that, hey, I want to start living the right way. I want to develop character. And for many that are just need to decide, I want to follow Jesus. That's the step for me. And I've been holding off. This is the first right step for me. Today's the day I'm going to do that. I pray that you'd help all of us to authentically pray, Lord, give me the courage I need, the wisdom I need to know the right thing to do, and then the courage to do it, whether I am fulfilled in doing it, whether it moves me towards something I want to accomplish or it moves me away. I want to know the wisdom to do the right thing and the courage to do it, no matter what. In Jesus' name, amen.